All right, if you're in the dive business, do me a favor. Close your eyes for a second and picture your typical scuba diver. You got that image in your head? Good. Well, chances are that image is wrong. We're about to dive into some hard data that's not just going to challenge your assumptions, it could completely change how you think about growing your business. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off right away and tear down that old stereotype. For decades, we all pictured a diver as a white, male baby boomer, right? But the data, it tells a completely different story. Today, the most likely active diver in the US is actually a Hispanic, millennial male, often with a postgrad degree and pulling in a six-figure income. This isn't just a hunch, it's a fact. And honestly, it's just the first of many surprises we're going to uncover.
So yeah, let's move past the guesswork and really dig into the numbers. We're going to break down the latest socio-demographic data from some key industry reports and build an accurate picture of who is actually getting in the water right now.
First up, gender. Okay, no huge surprise, scuba is still male-dominated, about 62%. But the real story here is that 38% of divers are women. That is a huge market. And the data shows they are especially drawn to more casual diving experiences. That is such a crucial insight, especially when you think about how you design and sell your entry-level courses. Now, let's talk about money. This probably won't shock you, but the data confirms what we've all kind of suspected. Diving is for people with some disposable income. Almost half of all active divers have a household income of over $100,000 a year. And if you look at the real core divers, the super committed ones, they're even wealthier. This tells us we're serving an affluent crowd that, frankly, expects a really high-quality experience.
And here is where that old stereotype just gets completely shattered. If you look at the participation rates within different ethnic groups, Caucasians aren't even at the top. It's Hispanic Americans followed really closely by Asian Americans. You see what I mean? The face of diving has already changed. The real question for all of us is, has our marketing caught up?
Okay, so let's put all those pieces together. The new, data-driven picture of today's typical diver is a high-earning, well-educated Hispanic millennial. You really need to burn this image into your mind because this is who is walking into your dive shop, signing up for your classes, and getting on your boats right now. But as we're about to see, understanding who they are, well, it's not nearly as important as understanding why they dive.
And that brings us to a really crucial distinction in mindset. This one has massive implications for your business. It's the difference between someone who wants to be a diver versus someone who just wants to do some diving. Think about it like this. On one side, you've got the be a diver mindset. You see this a lot in older generations. For them, diving was a lifelong dream. They are all in. They buy the full set of gear, the computer, the works. Diving becomes a core part of who they are. Then, on the other side, you have the do diving mindset. This is way more common with younger divers. For them, diving is just a really cool activity to do on vacation. One of many. They're not as committed, and they're way more likely to just rent gear. Recognizing who is standing in front of you, that changes everything.
The source material really puts it perfectly, and I quote, "There is a big difference between aspiring to be a diver and desiring to do some diving." I mean, just let that sink in. The way you market a lifelong dream is totally different from how you market a fun afternoon activity, right? Your entire sales process, from your website to your front counter, has to adapt to these two completely different motivations.
Okay, so we've got a clear picture of the modern diver and their mindset. But here comes the tough part. Because honestly, understanding your current customer isn't all that impressive when the entire industry is shrinking. The real challenge isn't just serving the people who already found their way to your door.
And this is the slide that should really get everyone's attention. A recent SFIA report looked at all the activities people want to try in the next year. You know how many age or income groups had scuba diving in their top 10? Zero. A big, flat zero. We are just not on the public's radar as a must-try adventure.
So this brings us to the million-dollar question for every single one of us in this business. If the whole pool of divers is getting smaller, and we're not even on the wish list for new people, is focusing all our energy on analyzing our current customers really a sustainable path to growth?
Look, here's the bottom line. Perfecting your service for a shrinking group of people is a losing game. To survive, to thrive, our industry has to look beyond its current customers and figure out how to get people who aren't even thinking about diving to think about diving.
And that leads us to our final and I think most important section. If the future of our businesses depends on pulling in new people, where do we even start to look for them? Well, the data actually gives us some pretty fascinating clues.
So where do we find these new divers? I want you to think of this list right here as a treasure map. The data shows that people who are already diving are also into hiking, kayaking, yoga, and running. These are your target communities. Your future customers are already at the kayak club, they're in the yoga studio, they're on the local hiking trail. So maybe instead of just advertising Learn to Dive, you should be marketing diving as the ultimate new adventure for hiking and kayakers. See the difference?
This means the goal here can't just be about small improvements. We're not talking about just tweaking your website. The real challenge is to fundamentally restructure your business, from your marketing to your sales process to the actual experience itself, so that you can attract a totally new type of client who maybe yesterday had never even thought about breathing underwater.
So I want to leave you with this. Take a really hard look at your operation, at your messaging, at your own mindset, and ask yourself this one simple question. Is my business built for the divers I have, or is it built for the divers I need? Because honestly, the answer to that question will probably determine your future.